Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Games Talks 2020. My name is Ari Offman, and I am a producer and games curator at ACMI. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge that this meeting is generating tonight on the lands of the Kulin Nation. I'd like to pay respects to their elders past, present, and emerging, and I'd like to acknowledge that sovereignty was never ceded. Well, really excited tonight because we are talking with the wonderful Wren Brier from Witchbeam Games. Hi, Wren.
Hello. Good to be here.
Fantastic. So while we kick off, let's go right back to the start. What got you into games? And what got you into game development more specifically?
Well, I've pretty much always been into games, but game development wasn't something I'd ever considered until I was applying for universities. So I knew I wanted to study animation in university, and I knew I wanted to study overseas. And one of the universities I looked at here in Brisbane was a gaming college, is a quantum college. And that was the first time that it actually occurred to me that that was something that I could study and do. So I ended up studying at Quantum and studying animation, and that's how I got here.
Awesome. And so you're currently working at Witchbeam Games. Tell us a little bit about Witchbeam and your role there.
Yeah, so Witchbeam is a company that my partner founded along with two other partners. And I am creative lead on Unpacking at Witchbeam. But I also do various other roles, like so my role kind of encompasses art, design, production, just kind of anything that needs doing that is within my capabilities.
Awesome. And we're going to be talking quite a bit about Unpacking once I get to that a little bit later. Before then, though, I wanted to go back a little bit earlier in your career. So when you finished up uni, it was at quite a unique time, I think, within the world and also in games development specifically, which is kind of the global financial crisis. Tell us a bit about your first employment opportunities directly out of uni and how you got through that difficult time.
Yeah, that was a very interesting time. So I graduated in late 2009. The GFC happened in mid 2008. So by the time I was done with uni, pretty much all of the studios were closed, except for maybe like Halfbrick and some teeny tiny studios here and there. So there was just not a lot. And because I was an international student, I had some complications with being able to stay in Australia. I needed to find work. So it was a pretty scary time. But while I was still in uni, I worked part-time at a game studio that a friend of mine from uni was working at. He liked my art, so he reached out, but it was just 10 hours a week, something like that. Straight out of uni, I looked for work for a few months and then ended up working at Bain Games, which I'm pretty sure is still around here in Brisbane. But the project I was working on, I was there for half a year and it was fun, but it got cancelled. So after that, I just worked a whole bunch of odd jobs between I was doing illustration for a children's book that my aunt was making. I was doing translation work because I speak Hebrew and English. I was doing commissions. I was just doing anything I could. But what I really needed to be doing was doing things that would get me points for my visa process, which, it's not very exciting or sexy, but that's what it was. So I was trying to find work in my profession because that's what I needed to do. But barring that, my other option was to get a master's degree. So there was not much work and I got a master's degree, also in animation. After that, I found a job in graphic design at a lighting company. So it was just completely random, but it was something I could do for half a year. And then what did I do then? Oh yeah, that's about when I applied for Halfbrick. But until then, until they got back to me and all this, I had a few other little roles. So like I ran a workshop at the Edge for pixel art, and I did some work on Phantom Limb, which is a short film by Alex Grigg. So that was a nice little experience to do animation, 2D animation in Photoshop. Oh, RA is silent.
There we go, muting my own microphone. And I think we're going to see some little bits from that actually when we take a look at your reel from around that time. But before then, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about your time at Halfbrick. I mean, obviously, look, they're a pretty iconic Australian studio, having come up with properties like Fruit Ninja and Jetpack Joyride. Tell us a bit about your time there.
Yeah, so that was a very interesting time too. It was like my dream job at the time. I was really excited to be able to work there. I'd actually applied several times before I finally managed to get in. I mean, it helped that the last time I tried to get in, they were actually hiring for my position. So that, yeah. So what I did at Halfbrick was live ops generally. So that meant I was updating existing projects that were already out. So for me, that was Fruit Ninja first, and then Jetpack Joyride. So on Fruit Ninja, they started me off doing new blades and backgrounds for the game. So like what happens when you like swing your when you swipe your finger around on the screen, the sort of effects that you get. So I was doing concepts for that, and eventually one of my blades I think made it in the game in the end, which was like the wind blade. And I did some backgrounds, including like there was a koi fish background that I did. I don't know if it's still in there, but it was at one point. Then I did some UI work. So they at the time were working on like a big release of like a big update of Fruit Ninja to streamline the menus, because they were the game was quite old, and it was a lot of things kind of built on top of each other, because that's kind of what happens when you have a game that's out for a long time. So by that point, it actually took quite a few menus to actually get into the game, like so many clicks until you were actually playing, and they wanted to streamline that a lot. So they put me and a designer, Ben Marinan, on this, and we did a bunch of concepts, and that's when I found out that I actually liked UI, which I didn't think I would. Yeah, in the end, that task I think was handed to someone more senior, like as I moved away from that team and onto the Jetpack team. But it was quite interesting. And then yeah, okay, so then on Jetpack, I when I joined the team, me and another girl joined the team at the same time. Joined like both of these teams actually. We were kind of being shared between the teams, and we both were being trained by Sierra Asher, the original artist on Jetpack, who was about to leave the studio. We were being trained in the art style of Jetpack, and he like basically taught me a lot of what I now use in sort of the style of Unpacking. And yeah, so on Jetpack, I did a lot of outfits for Barry. You'll see that in my Showreel. They're like near the end there. I did a whole lot of vehicles. I think the most interesting ones that I did were the Sleigh of Awesome, which was the Christmas sleigh that we did for the Christmas update. That was the first update that I was part of. I did a zombie T-Rex. That was a lot of fun. And I did a couple of backgrounds, including one that I think we'll talk a bit more about later. Yeah, I also did UI stuff on Jetpack. It started with just implementation, which again I thought I would hate, but I turned out I really liked, and then actual design as well for like some new features we've added. And one thing that I did at Halfbrick that was quite interesting and informative for me was Halfbrick has this thing called Halfbrick Fridays, which is when they basically they give you like 5 days to make a prototype. So 5 Fridays like in a row to make a prototype with a team. So first you got to pitch the game and get a team together, and you get to make your prototype. So that's where I kind of built my confidence and learned to pitch. I only got to do a couple of those, And the first one I originally wasn't even planning to pitch for. I was like, it's fine, I'll just join someone else's team. And then I had an idea like the night before and put together a pitch, like made pictures and everything, stayed late to do that, pitched, and managed to get a full team. So I was very pleased.
That sounds like a really awesome working model and opportunity to get exciting ideas, I guess, out of your team. So I really love the work that you did on Jetpack Joyride, but I mean, there's one point that I have to focus on, which is, of course, the Back to the Future update. What was it like being able to work with such iconic characters and locations and vehicles, I guess, to be doing?
Oh, that was a lot of fun. So it started with like when we knew that we got the license, we got to do a movie marathon. So we watched all 3 movies in a row. I think we started like after work and stayed until past midnight with like people slowly dropping off, the ones that like had kids and had to be home earlier. But I was young and single, so I could stay all the way. And I'd actually never seen the 3rd one, so it was it was interesting. So I got to design the pixel art version of the DeLorean, do the hoverboard. Oh, the effects for the DeLorean as well were like really like that was, I think, the most work that I had to do, especially because we had like a really old system for doing the effects that involved a lot of XML scripting, and yeah, it was weird, but it came out nice. It was like me and the designer working together on that. So I did the hoverboard, I did character costumes. So that was, a Marty and a Doc Brown and a Biff. I think the biggest challenge was the Hill Valley background. So our concept artist, Rod, he designed the concept for it, which was, really nice to work with. But then actually pixeling all these buildings was a lot of work. So it was like the courthouse mall, and there was the Holomax movie theater with like Jaws sticking out. I don't think I've got that in a picture here, but we've got the courthouse. So that was very fun.
Awesome. And so I guess it's about time to actually take a look at all of your work from this period. So Wren's asked me to acknowledge that this showreel is a couple of years old, but I think they're like, we still really want to look at it because the work's amazing. I'd also just want to do a shout out to Maze Wallen, who has done the really cool music behind this showreel. Awesome. So, look, a super fun lot of projects that we just got to see through your Showreel. I suppose what I wanted to ask you about was through these times. I mean, you've done a lot of work over the years as a freelancer, and this is something that I think that most devs at some point, and also most creative practitioners, will have to do. So, what are your hot tips for the freelancers out there?
Oh, that's a big question. Okay, so I'd say first of all, I did some freelancing before Halfbrick, and then I did freelancing after Halfbrick, and both of these were extremely different experiences. So in one of them, I was like extremely pressed for money the whole time, and I had no big things to my name, so like I didn't have a lot of clout or a lot of connections or ways to reach clients. So that was a really tough time. So I think I would recommend to maybe work full time first if you can, or like you work contracts first before you start doing like little freelance gigs. I also, I prefer longer contracts to shorter contracts because it's hard to come by contracts, and the longer they are, the less you have to search. I would say when you start, make sure that you have a buffer of money. Like, so when I quit Halfbrick, I had a little bit saved up. It's also good if you have, someone who can support you, like a partner, or if you're living at home, or have a side gig, and know that there's going to be dry periods where you just won't have anything and you'll be like, oh, I'm never going to succeed at this. And then there'll be periods where just everything is happening all at once because you'd like signed up to things when you were like months before, the things that you were, all the seeds that you were sowing, suddenly everything comes up all at once. So then you're super busy. So you got to like account for those things. What else? I'd say working for businesses is better than working for individuals because generally they can afford to pay you more. And you can charge more because they're going to be using your stuff in like commercial ventures, so they get more value out of it. Charge according to your hourly rate. Don't just go like, this will, I don't know, like don't just pull a number out from something that seems reasonable. Think about how long this would take you and how much you want to make hourly. And you can decide your hourly rate by figuring out how much you want to earn per year, and then figuring out how many hours you want to be working per year. There's like whole calculators and stuff for doing this. So I'd recommend doing some searching. And the last thing I'd say is that it's the client's project, not yours. So you can give them advice. You can tell them what will happen if they do this and what will happen if you do that. But you can't dictate what they should do, and you shouldn't take it personally if the project is not what you want it to be, because at the end of the day, it's not yours. You're helping on it.
That's all really, really great advice. And we're almost getting on to talking about unpacking the work there. But before then, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about one of your other experiences, which is in producing. And you've taken a sidestep and have produced a few games. Can you tell us a bit about how you got into that? And then what your tips are about approaching a game differently as a producer as opposed to an artist?
So I started my production stuff. Well, my interest in production actually started at Halfbrick, even though I didn't do any production there. We had a really good producer on my team on Jetpack, and I found the whole process, the whole agile methodology and stuff really helpful. So I became interested, and I was also like in meetings. I had this habit of like doodling while we were having meetings, and our producer noticed, and he was like, "Hey, how about you type up the tasks on Trello?" And it like really helped keep me occupied, and it'll help me feel involved in the process, even when we were like trying to evaluate how long tasks will take that are like programmer tasks that I couldn't really participate in evaluating. So I got into production at Well Placed Cactus. I was hired as an artist, and I did do a bunch of art there, but at one point their producer, their lead producer went on honeymoon leave for a month. So they were looking for someone to replace him, and I was like, hey, I want to do it. So I came on and suddenly I had to manage 3 projects, and it was very tough. But it was I got a lot of help from their other producer, Narkiska, who's just great.
Awesome. So for us, I think it's about time we started talking about unpacking. So a couple of years ago, you joined Witchbeam. Why don't you introduce us to the team there and tell us how you came to be working there?
Sure. So in this picture, you've got Tim, who is my partner and who does programming and design on Unpacking. You've got Jeff, who does sound and music. You've got Jeff's daughter, who helped a bit at the start with Foley recording, and later Jeff's wife, Ange, actually was helping with the recording. But yeah, Jeff's daughter helped us with the booth. Then that's me, and then that's Angus, who is our contract artist, who has been doing all of the items for the game since like level 2.
Awesome. So we're really excited to actually announce that you have a brand new trailer for Unpacking that you're going to be showing us. It's premiering here tonight. So let's take a look at that trailer. Doug's. It's just so adorable. I mean, I absolutely love it, and I think that everyone that I've seen to show either images from or even like the small demos you sent me has that same reaction to it. Like, just so tell us a little bit about where you came up with the initial idea and what Unpacking's all about.
All right, so Unpacking. All right, so it all started when Tim moved in with me, and we were like unpacking his stuff. So pretty straightforward. And we noticed that the process of unpacking was kind of game-like. Like you open a box and because we didn't label anything, you didn't know what was going to be in the box. It was a surprise. And things would come out and be exciting. You'd collect sets. So, you know, things would come out of one box and then out of another. And you'd be like, oh, that's like all of my figurines, or like, that's all my crockery. And then there was the aspect of like, once you finish unpacking one box and put it away, you've unlocked the box underneath. So it just, there was something very game-like about it. So I mentioned that to Tim, and we started kind of brainstorming about it because that's what we do. And I was kind of joking about it, but Tim was serious, and he pushed me on it, and we kept kind of thinking about this game until later I was like, hey, what if we make it about a character that you follow through the moves in her life, and you go through the game from like her childhood into adulthood. She goes to university, she has a partner, you know, that sort of thing. And yeah, we brainstormed this, and we really liked what we had.
So talk to us a bit about your design approach and your design ethos behind Unpacking.
Yeah, so with unpacking, some people, when we show them the game, or tell them the idea of the game, rather, they're like, oh no, this game is not for me. Like, unpacking is so stressful. This would be like my worst nightmare. Like, moving is so hard. And I agree that moving can be really stressful, but unpacking, the process of unpacking, can be really nice, if you're not like tight on time, because you get to rediscover all the things that you own. You get to create a space that's yours. And what we wanted to do with unpacking was remove all the bad bits, like, having to lug boxes downstairs to the garbage, and lifting heavy things and moving them around, and keep all the nice bits. And we want the player to connect with our character that they never see, and learn her story through just the items, and the environments. And yeah, I guess our inspirations are, like, we wanted the items to be things that tell you about the character, like in Gone Home. But in Gone Home, you get like a lot more information, because you can read notes, and you've got like narration and all this, and you don't get that in unpacking. We don't have that kind of fidelity, but we want you to be able to get whatever story you can out of our teeny tiny items. And of course, we're also inspired by Florence, which tells the story of a female character through a certain stage in her life, and it has that really nice little stage of unpacking. It's very, very different to how we're doing it, but it was such a nice little level. It felt emotionally similar. And then, of course, there's like a lot of The Sims in our game, especially the first one, where everything was isometric.
You've got a really lovely and polished pixel art style. I mean, it's one of the first things you notice while playing Unpacking. And I'm a bit curious about your design process with this. So can you maybe take us through like your process from initial drawings and sketches right through to sort of the final product that we're looking at on screen?
Sure. I'd say, first of all, that I think that I kind of made a mistake in choosing this art style, because it is so detailed. I pretty much, the way I started it was I made a few items like as best as I could, like to the top quality that I could. And I would not recommend doing that, because then you have to make every other item to that level. So next time I'll make something much rougher, maybe. We'll see. But people seem to like it, so at least there's that. And nowadays we've got Angus, who is our other artist, and mostly the way we split it up is I do environments and he does items, and like he does polish on both really these days. But in the original prototype, that was like me deciding the art style. Yeah, so the way that we do this is like with the environments. First, I make a house plan. There's like a lot of special considerations because it's isometric and you only ever see the rooms from one perspective. So we have to plan it so that everything is just on those two walls, anything that we want to be in the scene. So for example, we were working on a bathroom at one point, and had the bath in a certain position where the shower head would be on a wall that doesn't exist. So we couldn't just have the shower head floating in the air. So we had to redesign the entire bathroom to make it work. But thankfully, this is just like in really early stages, all on paper in a little like floor plan. So once I've got that done, I do first pass art in Sprite, where everything is a bit boxy. But everything is like measured. I have like figured out the size of the units in the game, and I have a where is it? Man, I have a tape measure right here on my desk usually. Oh, there it is. Yeah. It's like with me all the time now, and I'm constantly measuring everything. So I measure stuff inside around the house. There's also like a website called dimensions.guide that I use for measurements of things. Sometimes the IKEA catalog, and that's how I like decide on the size of furniture and things in the rooms. Then I put down grids everywhere because the whole game is grid based. So I need to make sure that all the grids fit right on the different furniture, adjust things if needed. Then I can import things into Unity and actually like make the level playable. Then we make items. So these days, because Angus is doing the items, what I do is I make a giant spreadsheet full of all the items that we want to put in the room. I make placeholder items in Unity using tools that Tim graciously made for me. And once I feel like the room feels right, I give Angus this list of items that has like the dimensions of all the items, if they need to be able to rotate or not. I give him descriptions for each item, reference images, and then he does first pass. We do reviews and revisions. Then we do second pass, third pass, fourth pass. So it's like details, like the covers on these books, for example. That's something that we do in second pass. Third pass is like full rendering, so making sure everything's nicely shaded, and like if there's any dithering needed, we do dithering. And fourth pass is like fixing up the little things in the items, like crossing our T's and dotting our I's. And we add weathering to the environment and maybe some items too. So like in one of our apartments, I don't know if there's a GIF here of it, but it's got little things like water damage and like scuffs and things like that. That's added in fourth pass. So yeah, lots to it. Oh, I can't hear you.
Gotta get used to this mute button on my fancy new microphone here, which I'm loving, but I've just got to remember to hit that button. So yeah, question start again. Quite early into your development process, you were selected for the Stugan Game Accelerator program, and you headed off for a couple of months intensive work in Sweden. Tell us what the experience was like, and what advantages and experiences do you think you gained through the program?
Yeah, so Stugan was amazing. It was nuts. Basically, it's this accelerator program where a few teams from around the world, I think we're like 15 teams, get picked. I think it was out of over 400 applications, they said. We got picked and went to Sweden to live in a cabin in the woods with full room and board, with like 20 other developers, and make the game of our dreams. So that was nuts. We never thought we'd get into that. At least I never thought we'd get into that. We applied because we could, and we figured, at the very least, this gives us a deadline to make a prototype for, and then we'll just make it in Brisbane if we don't get in, which will probably happen. And then we got in. So it was very affirming to know that like someone thought that this project was a good idea. That was like this little pet project that Tim and I were doing. It was pretty life-changing, because now I get to make this game. We're still in touch with like pretty much everyone that we met at Stugan 2 years ago now. We have our own Discord, and we like hang out and do chats, like video chats sometimes. As for advantages, I'd say it gave us a lot of time to work on the project. At the time, I was freelancing, and Tim was kind of between projects, but he was trying to decide what the next project for Witchbeam would be. And we got to have constant feedback from both like our peers there. We would do playtest sessions every week. We would also show it to our to like mentors and stuff that came through, visitors. Sometimes people would come with their kids, and their kids would play it. We made some great connections, and got just like a lot of exposure and validation for our project. I mean, I think one of the coolest ones that happened was like Mike Booth, the creator of Left 4 Dead, visited, and he liked Unpacking, and I was like, whoa. It's like someone like that likes Unpacking, then like maybe we're doing okay. And we even got to do like a showcase at the end in Stockholm, and got to like meet some publishers, and it's a really good time.
Well, that actually leads really well into a question I was going to ask a little later, but I think it fits a little bit better now, which is that after Stugan, a GIF from the game went viral. I mean, it sort of hit it really big on Twitter, and now all of a sudden you've got thousands and thousands of people who are really excited about this game and have a huge weight of anticipation for it. What's it like working on a project that so many people are anticipating before its release?
It's scary, but it's also very encouraging. Like, because again, we couldn't have done it any other way. This was a pet project. This was a side project. Witchbeam was going to probably work on something else if we hadn't done this. It was just something we were playing around with, but suddenly people cared about this. So first there was Stugan, then there was that GIF. We got a grant from Screen Queensland. Thank you, Screen Queensland. We had publishers reach out to us. So it's like, okay, it would be like stupid not to do this game. So on the one hand, it's kind of rough to have announced it so early into development because it's still going to be a while. But on the other hand, so like it's rough because now we got to keep the momentum. We got to keep people interested for like years in this game. But it couldn't have happened otherwise. So we just got to live with that. It's a wholesome game. Like that's the sort of category it falls into. So hopefully our fans are also, they seem to be sweet people who've been very patient with us. So it's been nice.
Awesome. So I think I've got like sort of one last question to you, and it's really about how Unpacking plays. As I said, I absolutely loved the demo when I got to play it at PAX Rising last year, and since then, in playing it, it's made me think about the fact that it is a puzzle game, but it's also a really meditative and mindful experience. What experience do you want the player to have while playing Unpacking?
Yeah, I mean, I think you really hit the nail on the head. When we first started developing it, it was like a puzzle game. We were considering it item Tetris, but it slowly morphed into a Zen game. So now we call it a Zen puzzle game. But it's more about self-expression and contemplation and discovery than it is about like solving something. It's not a hard game, or at least we don't intend for it to be. That remains to be seen how the later levels go. But for now, so it's supposed to be this very contemplative sort of place where you can just go and chill out and make a space your own. It's also we've been told that it's a very millennial wish fulfillment game because you get to like own a house eventually, So it's just a very nice game, a very relaxed experience. I actually gave an entire talk at GCAP last year about it called Unpacking Game Design. So if you're interested, that's on YouTube. You can watch it.
And definitely worth a watch, I can say. So look, my last question before we get on to some from the audience. Any idea when we might expect to release?
2021. That's all I can say for now. However, I can say that we're going to be part of PAX Online, and we've got some exciting news coming up about that pretty soon. PAX Online is this weekend. Well, starting this weekend. It's like, I think, a week-long event.
So make sure, guys, that they head along to check out Unpacking at PAX Online, and it's entirely free this year too, which is great. No badge prices, loving that. So we've got a few questions coming through from the audience now. So I might feed them through. First one is, how can you transition from different non-game jobs to games ones? And what advice would you give people who are yet to do it? So I guess this is really about freelancing and transferable skills.
Yeah, so I haven't worked that many non-game jobs. Like everything that I worked at that wasn't games was kind of art related. Well, for almost everything. So that translated. Like it was always art. I was doing illustration. I was doing animation. Even the graphic design stuff like gave me related skills. So I think you can definitely leverage that sort of thing. I can't really say anything about like completely unrelated jobs, but pretty much I feel like pretty much anything that you do in your life, whether it's hobbies or work, like you can learn something from that that will help you in anything else that you choose to do in the future, especially if it's something artistic. Like I feel like I've learned a lot from my various experiences. I mean, I'm making a game about unpacking that's inspired by unpacking, like in real life. So I think any kind of experience is helpful.
Definitely. So the next one's coming back to sort of your art style and how you arrived at it. I mean, so the question is, where were you introduced to pixel art? Was it at uni, and was there a specific reason why you chose it? I guess is my addition.
Oh yeah. So wait, a specific reason why I chose it for unpacking?
Yeah. Why? Well, yes, for unpacking.
Oh yeah.
And well, actually, in general, because it seems to be one of the core things of your art style. When we look back through your career, is there something that draws you specifically to pixel art?
So I kind of fell into pixel art. I mean, I think the first thing I did was those little workshops at the Edge. So it was little animation workshops using pixel art. What I liked about pixel art is that it's easy to do frame by frame 2D animation with it, and I enjoy doing that. But I really got introduced to it while working on Jetpack when Sierra like trained me up for working on it. The reason that I chose it for unpacking is because it felt right for an isometric game. Like the game felt like it should be isometric, and then pixel art felt like it made sense for that. I hadn't actually done isometric work before unpacking, so that was also like an interesting learning curve. Like looking back at some of the earlier work I did for unpacking, I had to go and like fix cups and stuff because the perspective was wrong. So it was a process.
So we've got a lot of people curious about the items in unpacking. So the first one is, how many individual items have been made in the game?
Oh my god. I don't know exactly how many we've got right now. I think the last time we checked, it was around 600 or 700 items. The total number that we're expecting is about 1,000.
Oh my god! Like you are either incredibly brilliant or really insane for attempting that.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy that we picked like to do this in 2D and in pixel art, because in retrospect, like doing this in 3D would be a lot easier because we wouldn't have to we wouldn't have to turn around items. We would just, you just rotate it in 3D, but we have to redraw it. But people like the art style, so hopefully it was hopefully the charm of the art style makes up for the stupid amount of work.
It's super appealing. And I think, look, leading on to the next question, it's not just about the way the objects look, but actually the way they interact with their environment. So the question from our audience is that many of the items react to where they're placed. So towels on hangers and those kind of things. What items were hardest to handle all the cases for, and were any item placements added in response to playtesting?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. That's a great question. So I think the most exciting one actually isn't in the game yet, but I'll tell you anyway. So we have a diary in the game in the child's room, the first level. And we thought you have to put the diary in the drawer because it's in the drawer, like in the desk, because it's a private item. But a lot of people kept trying to put it under the pillow. And we were like, you can't move the pillow. But enough people tried that we're like, maybe you should be able to move the pillow. So for now, you can't. We haven't had time to implement that yet, but you can put it on the pillow and it counts. It's like, that's fine.
That's really interesting because, like, when I got to the diary, my initial thing was to try and put it under the pillow.
Yeah, there you go. So it was players that gave us that idea. There were other things that came about because of players, like leaving pots and pans on the stovetops. Like we were originally like, that doesn't count. You can't just leave them out. That doesn't count as unpacking. You have to put them away. But some people were like, but I just leave my things there. Like that's where they live. I don't have enough space. And it's like, fine, you can leave it there. It's fine. So there were a lot of items like that. But in regards to what was The most complicated, I don't know. What's like, some items have a lot of different states, like towels can be folded and they can be hung on bars and they can be hung on hooks. Books can be put on shelves, like upright. I think the toughest one technically to implement, and I really need to ask Tim, but I would say probably hanging clothes in the closet was the most nightmarish one, because you're combining like the hooks and the clothes and then putting them on a thing together, and they have to work in so many different combinations.
So really good question. How are you managing all of those assets?
So spreadsheets are helping a lot. Tim's also built us like tools for, so a lot of custom tools that Tim's built have been helping us. He's also watching this, so he's probably enjoying the shout out. Hi, Tim. But yeah, so we've got tools for importing checklists, for comparing our not checklists, sorry, spreadsheets, for comparing the spreadsheets to what's actually in the game. We've got tools for like customizing each item, like, you know, figuring out its size and its like what sprites it's got, how many rotations, if it's got variants. So for example, when you've got like the kids books, you've got in the kids room, you've got tall books and you've got small books. So each one, those are just two different items, but they have like 5 variants each, so that they all are contained in one item. So when I say it's like going to be 1,000 items, that includes variants. So it'll probably be a bit less. Yeah.
Awesome. And we've got one last question for the evening. So the marketing of Unpacking reminds the audience that of the marketing done for the game, The First Tree, in the fact of the aspect of posting GIFs. Also to me, it reminds me of kind of the way the marketing was for Way to the Woods, that lovely game by Anthony Tan. So has it been an inspiration for your marketing with Unpacking?
I actually don't know The First Tree. I do know Way to the Woods, but I don't know that I've like followed the GIFs in particular. It's just we found early on, I guess, when we posted that first GIF, that people enjoy GIFs from Unpacking, that people like seeing how the items move around and get put down. So we, just started making lots of those. We saw they were getting good reception, so we keep making them. It's actually, I think we want to post more videos as time goes on as well, because the sound design by Jeff is just incredible, and items just make the most amazing noises, as you've heard in the trailer. So that's like a huge part of like the zen-ness of Unpacking. People have said that it would be like really good for ASMR videos. So I would like to showcase more of that on our Twitter.
I think it would be great for ASMR videos, actually. Like that, it's a perfect and winning combination. With that, I'd like to say a huge thank you to Wren for being here this evening. Wren, where can people find out more information about Unpacking?
So you can go to unpackinggame.com or find us on Twitter at unpackingalife. We also have a Steam page where you can wishlist the game. We'd love it if you do that. And yeah, you can see us at PAX this weekend.
Amazing. Wren, thank you so much for taking the time and being here with us this evening. And thank you all for coming once again to Games Talks 2020. And we'll look forward to seeing you next Monday at 6 p.m. Have a good evening all.